Hello, this is the video for Comp 1, Week 11 of Miss G's class. In this video, I'm going to go over the activities and discussion that we had in class today. So I had you guys read about argument before class this week because that's what kind of paper Essay 4 is going to be. For Essay 1, we focus on expressive writing, and Essays 2 and 3, we focus on informative writing. Now we're finally getting to move on to persuasive writing, which is the third mode. So obviously the chapter gave you tips and things on how to do that. So I'm just going to give a few notes, or that's what I did in class. And if you have any extra questions, please be sure to let me know. First thing I want to do is talk about the ingredients of this essay. Just like every essay that we've written, there are certain things you want to make sure you have. And part of that comes from the journal. So the journal talks about making sure that we can, that the reader can understand very clearly and early what exactly our argument is. We should take a clear stance. And generally, while there are two purposes, to either change people's minds, the reader's mind, or to shore up what the reader already believes, I encourage students to lean more towards changing readers' minds because that helps us grow and gives us a stronger purpose as a writer. To write to someone where we're not, preaching to the choir, so to speak, right? Telling people and arguing about something that they already agree with. The second ingredient we're going to look for is the reasons and evidence, and that a lot of your journal for before class this week had you look at examples of that. So this is the bulk of what your essay will encompass, which is the reasons you believe whatever that is you're arguing. And of course, you'll support that with evidence, and you're going to actually use at least one source on this essay, which I'll get to later. And some of the evidence will come from that, and some of it will come from your own of your own making. And of course, in terms of persuasion, we want to make sure we're appealing to the reader. So we looked at the appeals in Unit 3, Ethos, Pathos, Logos, and I'll talk more about those in a moment. But then in that unit, we were analyzing someone else's persuasion. And in this essay, now we get to use those elements of persuasion. So I'll talk in just a minute about how to do that, or some ways to do that. Of course, while we're thinking about persuading the reader, we have to figure out who they are, right? And then, of course, how to make those specific appeals. And a good argument always addresses the other side, or at least mentions them and either concedes, refutes, or rebuts them. Oops. Because we want to show our reader that we've at least thought about the other side, right? We didn't just forget it, because if we do forget it, then our reader is going to always kind of be in the back of their mind, what about this? What about that? So we want to make sure that we mention that, and of course state why it's wrong, or why maybe part of it is right, but this, the bulk of it is wrong. What is going on here? There we go. We also want to make sure we have careful word choice. So that's, we always want to have careful word choice in our essays, but because we are very likely addressing people who don't agree with us, we want to make sure that we use respectful language, because as we all are well aware, when we use social media and we see people disagreeing, if they aren't using respectful language, it's very easy to just dismiss them, or like not even listen to their argument. So we don't want to sort of shoot ourselves in the foot where that's concerned. The book also mentions the idea of moving beyond words in terms of argument. And so actually we're going to do that in Unit 5. You guys are going to take the argument you're making in paper 4 and make a multimodal argument, or an argument made of more than words. So of course we'll talk about that in Unit 5, but something to keep in mind as you're thinking about your topic for Essay 4. So here's where I mentioned the three appeals, right? And we talked about those in Unit 3. So pathos and logos have to do with the reader's emotion and logic, and you can review your notes about that. And of course, now we're thinking about using our own persuasion. And ethos comes from us, from the author, in terms of authority and credibility. So we want to show our reader that we're trustworthy and credible, and appeal to their emotion, to their brains, and their hearts. So the next thing we did in class was practice being persuasive. So let me pull up the prompt here. So I split the class in half, and each half chose a pizza place in Warrensburg. And then I gave each person in the group one of these sets of questions to answer. In the email that I'm going to send with this video, I'm going to indicate for you which questions you should answer for your own in-class activity. But basically, yes, we just practice with kind of a silly argument, taking the side. And so looking at those ingredients I just went over, right? A strong claim, a clear audience, emotional and logical appeals, and then what could be counterclaims. So, you know, I think we chose spin and Mazios in class today. So we heard some interesting arguments. And so, yes, for the in-class activity part one, there's two parts. I'm going to ask you to answer one of these sets of questions. If you need to, go ahead and pause the video. We took about 8 minutes to write this in and discuss it in comp. So when you're ready to move on, the part two for the in-class writing. So let me pull up the prompt first, and then I'll show you what to do. So the same number I gave you on the previous screen of questions to answer, I would like you to answer the same number, but these are slightly different questions about an article. So let me go to that next. So in the in-class materials folder, you'll find one article. I have two copies. One is a PDF and one is a doc. And I just gave some options if students want to, you know, annotate. It's sometimes easier to do that in Word. And so what I would like you to do is read this article, and then coming back to my questions, answer the set of questions I've assigned you. You know, you practice giving a claim, you know, giving emotional appeals on part one. For part two, now we're analyzing someone else's. So this is a model persuasive argument. So again, we took about 12 minutes for this. So let me put up those questions. Go ahead and pause the video to finish part two. This is the second and only, or sorry, the last part of the in-class activity. So you'll be done with it after this part, and then just turn it back on when you're ready to keep going. So when you're ready to move on, something I'd like you to think about in terms of the article you just read is what are some issues besides that of free college that this article touches on. So of course it's about free college, right? We see that in the title. Come back to it. But he also addresses some other issues, right? So in class we did brainstorm those. So let me pull up that. So whoa, that zoomed way in, sorry. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So some intersecting issues that we came up with besides the idea of college tuition is, you know, of course, a big part of his argument has to do with money and whether or not students can afford college, and also whether or not they finish college. So when we're thinking ahead to the essay, I'm going to talk about that here after this, but I want you to think about issues that are brought up in these articles beyond just the obvious main issue, which of course in this essay was the idea of free college. So just try not to be too narrow-minded and when you think about these topics in terms of there's a lot of overlap or intersection in some of these issues. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at the essay for assignment. Back here on Blackboard, there's a link in the in-class materials folder to the assignment sheet, and that takes us to where all the assignment sheets live. And I want to start with the possible topics before I look at the deadlines. So I've kind of been dancing around this idea that, of course, you're going to make an argument about an issue, but it has to be one of the controversial issues from one of our readings. So there's some readings after class this week, in addition to the reading I just had you guys do, that cover controversial issues. So free speech, free college, but also, again, like I was just saying, make sure you remember that you can cover an issue that is maybe intersectional or tangential to that. So the idea of people finishing college as opposed to just paying for people's free college, okay, which makes more sense after you've read that article. So again, you are going to use at least one source for this essay, and one of those has to be one of the readings from Unit 4. You may use an additional source if you choose, and that can be a neutral source. So if you want to give more context, an example would be for the free speech issue. Someone last semester brought in, you know, the First Amendment, like the actual text. So a neutral source that can maybe, if you need feel like your reader needs background or context on the actual issue, like to understand it. If you don't feel strongly about any of the topics from the readings from Unit 4 or any of the intersecting issues, you can make an argument about another one if you find an outside source that gives a strong opinion on that controversial issue. So a big part of this assignment is this idea that we're responding to someone else's argument. So we kind of need that as a, something to bounce off of. So I do ask that sources are approved, to get them approved by me. So if you choose to do that, just make sure and email me a link or something like that so I can take a look at it and make sure it meets those parameters. So again, you're using one or two sources from this unit's readings. There's some after class this week, and then the one we just looked at. And then again, just making an argument about it. It's really broad. So it's really important to think about the issues that speak to you as you're reading them. Is there something that's making you like sort of, react? So, because of course, as we learn in Unit 1, the more engaged we are in a topic, the more likely we are to be engaged in the essay. So let's go back up to the deadlines for this essay. There are a lot of them are a lot. I can't talk right now. Sorry, it's been a long day. We've done a lot of these steps before. We are going to have 4 weeks for this unit. The first 2 steps are due either Monday or Wednesday of next week, and that depends on if you're a Monday or Wednesday student. So I'm giving you a little extra time so you can read those essays before you decide which one you're responding to. Let me know before class which one you're going to respond to, and there's a topic proposal assignment, and you're going to turn in a source analysis. And there's more details about that in the video for before class next week. So before your April 5th or April 7th deadline, definitely watch that video. We'll do a second draft for peer review again. And there's going to be a works cited page, just like last time. The peer reviews we actually are going to be doing on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday instead of a Monday, Tuesday like we've done before. This is during week 3 of the unit. So again, we're just sort of taking a little more time with each step. This is our last big essay, so we want to make sure we're doing everything that we've learned this semester. This is sort of the capstone of the course, right? Tutorials are required for everybody this time. I've done conditional the last 2 times, and I'm taking all of 1 week to do that. So that's another reason that we're having a 4-week unit. And final drafts are due the 25th. Again, all these steps are pretty straightforward in terms of what we've done before. As always, I put, details about either the assignment itself or where to get more details about the assignment itself. Everything's pretty straightforward. Let's see, this essay should be 4 pages, not including the works cited page. So we're still practicing using those sources just like we did in Unit 3. Portfolio checklist, like always, you should already have, through Essay 3 Rhetorical Reflection as of the end of last week. So we're just keeping adding, and by this time your portfolios are getting pretty full, and you maybe are starting to realize why I've been so strict about naming your folder files, and it's because of that reason. So I'm getting low on time, so really quick, in week 11 I wanted to look ahead. Like I mentioned, the readings for after class are going to help us think about some issues that we can write on. The first 2 are kind of opposing in what they think about restricting or not restricting free speech. And then the next 2 are also on the idea of free college, like the one we read today. So again, these are issues you can write on, or you can write on one of the intersecting issues. And there's a reading journal on that. Okay, so again, thinking about those, and then before, sorry, let me 11 again. Before class, you'll turn in a topic proposal based on that. Okay, and then one more thing that we talked about today is there's an extra credit opportunity in this folder that's attend a Politics and Social Justice Week event and do a 1-page write-up for 10 points of extra credit, and you can do 2 of these to earn up to 20 points of extra credit. So there's a schedule attached. Everything is either via Zoom or in person, and even the in-person ones are being broadcast. So if you don't feel comfortable going in person, you can watch the broadcast of that. And again, do a 1-page write-up, and you'll turn those in right here in the in-class materials folder. Sorry, I'm rushing here at the end. Just let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll give directions for turning